Hello, Bronx, and welcome to Writer's 8 Minutes. I'm your host, Daniela Marino, and on today's episode, I will be sharing with you how our perception and values affect how we see an action that could normally be taken for granted. Throughout my research of this topic, I learned different close reading skills, such as how dissecting ideologies can help you further understand the nature of a text and the implications it may have, purposely or not. I have also discovered how important it is to use intrinsic and extrinsic analysis of a text in order to also further dissect it. These are the tools that I have used and will be using in this segment of 8 minutes in order to help you see things in my text that you may not have seen before. First off, I should begin by telling you tonight's topic, which in this case is kneeling. It's not a very common topic, but given the latest controversy within the NFL, I figured it was worth understanding why it has caused so much chaos in our society. Although what sparked my interest to this normally uninteresting topic was the controversy in NFL football.
Out of the NFL, he's also calling for players who take a knee to protest what they see as racial inequities to be fired or suspended. What's your reaction to what we're seeing?
My boy sent me this morning. I had Dave Zabino double-check this for me because I want to double-check these facts, make sure we was on point. Let me read something to y'all real quick. It wasn't until 2009 that until 2009, no NFL players stood for the national anthem because players actually stayed in the locker room as the anthem played. The players were moved to the field during the national anthem because it was seen as a marketing strategy to make the athletes look more patriotic. The United States Department of Defense paid the National Football League $5.4 million.
I've been talking about
$5.4 million between 2011 and 2014, and the National Guard $6.7 million between 2013 and 2015 to stage on-field patriotic ceremonies as part of military recruitment budget line items.
And I will be focusing on that primarily. I will briefly touch upon other instances in which we tend to kneel as a society. You may not have given it much thought, but as a society, we tend to kneel when we pray, we kneel when we propose, we kneel when someone gets knighted, and oftentimes we kneel when a coach is talking to us or a player on our team has been seriously injured. But why do we do it? Kneeling has been a sign of respect for as long as we have been able to record information, as far as hierarchical society to be exact. A society in which every person's worth was meticulously evaluated, from the regular everyday person to the ruling elite. Groups of people were not equal to other groups of people, and certainly not equal to gods. So if kneeling is such a sign of respect and a worship to gods, why are people so offended by the fact that NFL players have chosen to do this instead of standing? Before I give you the answer, I feel the need to explain kneeling in the context of nonverbal communication. After speaking with a professor who focuses on the study of nonverbal communication, I learned that for starters, kneeling is classified under kinesics. This includes fine and gross body movement, posture, locomotion, facial and eye behavior. I took the time to ask why or when people use nonverbal communication because I was interested in knowing if there was a reason why these football players decided to do an action rather than use their words to explain their frustration. Dr. Guten, a respected professor here at Rider University, expressed that we use nonverbal communication every day of our lives, and that much of it is instinctual. There are theorists who suggest that nonverbal communication begins in the womb, but later on we learn to display rules and regulations from our parents, siblings, teachers, and coaches. Although there is controversy whether nonverbal usage is a matter of nature versus nurture, I believe that it is a matter of nurture. No man is born knowing they have to kneel in order to propose. They learn that in society because it has become a socially accepted tradition. Bottom line is, nonverbal communication is not just non-language. We see it in physical appearance, paralanguage, which is how things are said, proxemics, which is man's use of space, tactile communication, which is obviously touch, artifacts, which are clothing, and in this case, environmental influences. Finally, Dr. Guin mentioned if you ever have to make a decision about whether to believe verbal or nonverbal, always believe nonverbal, because it is very hard to disguise it. So back to my original question. Why are people so offended by the fact that NFL players have chosen to do this instead of standing? My reason is a transformation through metaphor of the tangible and non-tangible. Each side of the NFL kneeling controversy has transformed their argument into their God. Techniques of Close Reading by Barry Brumet explains that texts are somewhat like clouds in the way that every now and then we come across a word, phrase, or keyword, nonverbal sign that seems to resemble or mean something other than what it appears to be literally. In this case, when people argue that the players are disrespecting the flag and those who have fought for this country, they are being narrow-minded. Kneeling is just an action whose meaning has always been attached to worship, and that hasn't changed in this case. However, the players are worshiping their cause, their protest, above all else. Now, on the other token, the people who believe this is disrespectful are transforming the flag and the military into their God. The bigger question now becomes, what is so important or meaningful about these two reasons that they are worth transforming into gods? Well, I made a small tree breaking down the possible reasons behind this transformation. For those Americans who are pleased with our society and how it functions, the flag equals God, and this God equals freedom and pride. Freedom to buy a home or multiple houses, freedom to make money, freedom to have an education, freedom to have a job, status, and opportunity. Pride in the American success, power, and abundant resources. However, not every African American or minority has had this, so it makes sense that they would try and create a different God to worship. Black Lives Matter and what it represents has become their God. This God equals justice, freedom, and equality. These are all tied together because equality allows justice and justice allows freedom. Freedom to have success, freedom to have power, freedom to own homes, freedom to have education, and freedom to use the resources this country provides. However, this also means literal freedom, since African Americans and Hispanics make up 56% of all incarcerated individuals. Most individuals have decided to look at this issue from a superficial point of view, because oftentimes it is easier to take things at face value rather than to try to understand them, the drive and implications of the words and actions. Although my purpose with this segment wasn't to give a solution or advice, I must include that worshiping worldly things can often deviate the person from their original plan and idea. This is why it is important to dig deep into why we find such meaning in the things we hold valuable. On the next episode of Writer's 8 Minutes, we'll continue part 2 of this in-depth close reading of the controversy involving the NFL. I will be analyzing Colin Kaepernick's cover on GQ and the meanings behind the cover. Thank you for watching and see you next time.